What is up, guys? My name is Ryan, and if you haven't already, please make sure you check out part 1 of the series before jumping into this show, as it will give you a much better understanding of the journey that we've been through up until this point in time. And if you've already seen it, you already know we won over $35,000 in our last episode, playing more than half of the hands being dealt to us. You don't see that every day. The main villain today, Yo Viral, with over $4 million in tournament cashes, one of the most recognizable faces on YouTube, and the #1 searched person in the poker world today. Oh, and I almost forgot, he just played the biggest pot in Live at the Bike history, nearly $1 million cash not too long ago. He and I are going to be getting in some serious confrontations where he puts me in some very difficult spots with some less than premium holdings. So without further ado, let's jump into the action, playing $25.50 with a $50 big blind ante, buying in yet again for $20,000. King 5 suited is typically a pretty junky hand, but when I see a limp from Tim and another limp from Dr. H, I think I can take control of this pot and outplay these guys post-flop. I raise it up to $250, Tim folds, and Dr. H calls. I know the graphics say that Dr. H was the initial raiser and that I called, but you'll just have to take my word for it here. So heads up to an ace-high board, which was everything for our exact hand except a few ambitious backdoor draws, but we can still represent some of the strongest hands on this board that Dr. H simply won't have when he overlimps in the cutoff and calls my raise. So let's start an adventure. I fire out a small bet before the doctor decides he'd like to cut our expedition short and check raises us on a flop that should heavily favor myself as the pre-flop raiser. And let's say he did flop a set or 2 pair. Wouldn't he want this perceptively aggressive opponent who's shown the propensity to bluff and blast off over all 3 streets to continue to do that? Yeah, I'm not really buying it. If he had a hand that was very strong, why would he want to cut our expedition short with hands like Jack High and Queen High when we're likely going to be bluffing into him on the flop, the turn, and the river? Well, joke is on him. I have King High, and I 3-bet this flop to $1,000. Planning on a big bet on many different turns to put even an ace in a miserable spot, which, to be honest, I don't even believe he has. Dr. H, however, not one to give up easily, and makes the call with his middle pair and plethora of backdoor draws. If I were to handpick a single card out of this deck, it would be the Deuce of Clubs, and the dealer obliges. Not only do we pick up a backdoor flush draw that we were hoping to stumble upon, but we also have a straight draw. So any 3 would give us a very, very well disguised straight. With all that being said, I see absolutely no reason to slow down, since if I flopped a strong ace, a set, or a 2 pair myself, I'd like to get a lot of money in this pot on the turn, so I'll be doing the same thing with my best bluffs. So I throw out another $2,200 bet, and after some deliberation from the doctor, he decides it's time to take his medicine as he hands his cards back to the dealer. And I'd say that's a pretty successful first adventure of the day, and who wouldn't trust an innocent looking face like that to have the goods?
Or set.
I mean, yes, definitely. He definitely thought his 8s were no good. He took a very strong line and got played back anyway.
In this next hand, we see Daddy-O limping in from early position, and you know what they say, deuces never loses? Or something like that. Even though we have the 2 lowest cards in the deck, it's a pair, and I've got position on a player that I think I may be able to bluff later on in the hand if need be. So I make it $250, and he calls. The flop comes out Jack, Jack 10. He starts with a check, and I continue for a small size, hoping to fold out hands like 6-7 and some other garbage that didn't connect with the board. But he is undeterred. It's hard enough to make a pair, and technically he's got 2 of them. The turn is a 4, and now when he checks it over to me, the goal is to try to get to showdown. We still beat some draws like 8-9, and I doubt a Jack or a 10 is ever going to fold on this turn, so I check it back. Maybe we can win if the river goes check, check, but the river is a very interesting one. It's a queen, bringing an overcard to the board, and Daddy-O checks it over quickly, and I mean quickly. Now it's time for us to try to get him off the hand. We mentioned earlier that we play this hand in position to try to bluff him off if the opportunity arises, and when he snap checks it over, I think that most of the time we're going to be able to get it through. With that being said, I go for a chunky size of about full pot, and he quickly waves the white flag and we get this one through. Very glad that we could find this creative bluff and continue to truck along in the right direction.
It's another overcard, and they have a big hand.
Now, as many of you know, 7 Deuce is the worst possible hand in poker, so I have made it my life's mission. Yes, my life's mission to try to win every time I get it dealt to me, and I will be damned if I stop in the biggest game of my life. And hey, at least it's suited. We open it up from early position and get a call from Tim on the button. Heads up to a king-high board. We start out with a small continuation bet, hoping that it gets the job done, but Tim is undeterred, floating us with no pair, no draw. I guess he's trying to pull a move on us and starting to catch on to our shenanigans. The turn helps us out. It's a 7. So now we went from trying to bluff our opponent off the best hand to trying to bluff catch and race to showdown. Maybe pick off some ambitious bluffs from a player I believe to be ambitious himself. Even though it's pretty tough to find hands that would be bluffing here when Tim puts in a half pot size bet. Nowhere for us to go. Our hand's a little too strong to fold, a little too weak to raise, and I don't really see other course of action making sense than to match the bet. That's what we do, and the river is a 6. A very interesting card, bringing a 4-liner to a straight. We check it over once again, still trying to show down our second pair, but Tim is not going to make it easy on us, firing one more bet, this time to the tune of $1,300. We obviously lose to a king, any 4, and a handful of 2-pair combos, but how could my opponent have a 4 here? Obviously, he could have a hand like 4-5 or 2-pair like 5-6, 6-7, but I feel like a lot of those low connected pair plus straight draw type hands would just check back the turn most of the time. On top of this, would he be going for this much value on a super connected board with a hand like King 10, King Jack, when it looks like I'm very weak myself? So with that in mind, coupled with the fact that I thought he was ready to make a move on me, not being able to put him on a specific hand, I'm curious. I'm getting a right price, and my favorite hand is 7 Deuce. So I think I'm good here. I flick the money and make the hero call, and thankfully, our ambitious call was rewarded with the most ambitious hand in the game. Something smelled fishy, and thankfully we were able to sniff it out and put on our hero cape, making the call, raking in a nice $2,300 profit with a good old 7 Deuce, even when the 7 Deuce game wasn't on. Continuing to mix it up, Doyle Brunson famously coined the term that you've got to give action to get action. And I think he'd be pretty proud of us today, raising it up for the 4th hand in a row with a card below a 6. This time Ace-4 of diamonds, a bit more of a reasonable hand. Woody flats directly to our left, and Christina closes the action out of the big blind. We flop a straight draw and a flush draw on this king-high board, so we toss out a bet of about half pot. Woody calls, and Christina decides 350 isn't nearly enough. Let's play for more, and she puts in a booming raise to $2,000, leaving herself about $5,000 left to play for. Okay, we have a massive draw. Not only do we have the nut flush draw, but we've also got a gutter ball, which means that any queen would give us the nut straight. To be honest, I think Christina most of the time has a very strong hand here, like Queen 9 or 2-pair. But the proposition of folding this monster draw on stream with a bunch of people watching isn't quite that appealing to me, because even if she has a very strong hand, we're still going to win this a fairly large percentage of the time. With all that being said, I don't like the idea of calling, because let's say we call here and the turn comes the deuce of clubs. Christina would likely go all in for about a pot-sized shove, and we're just forced to fold our hand since we won't be getting the right price to draw, or we can just call it off poorly. But on the other hand, let's say the turn comes and brings in the flush or a queen. She may now be able to just check and fold her hand when the only real draw comes in, so overall, I think calling is the worst decision out of the 3 in this specific spot. Beyond this, if Christina has a lower flush draw than mine and we're just in an elite position to double up if she is to call it off when we jam, I think the 2 best options here would be to fold or to jam all in. As mentioned earlier, we're on stream with a worldie of a draw, so folding doesn't seem all that appealing to me. And oh wait, I almost forgot. If we jam all in representing a hand like ace-queen or a flop set, we could even put 2-pair in a tough spot. When we get called, we'll still have a boatload of equity and a decent enough chance to win this by the river, and on the slight chance that she has a baby flush draw herself, we're just going to be doing a massive disservice if we were to find the fold. So like I said, no gamble, no future, let's get after it. I go all in for a little over $7,000 that she has in her stack. Woody quickly gets out of the way and she just as quickly makes the call, so we're going to need some improvement. As you can see, we're going to win this hand about 40% of the time against the second nuts, which is why I think going all in is the best choice. If she had a hand like Jack 10 or some other 2 pair, then it might be a difficult spot for her to call it off for her last 5K. She asks if we can run it twice, and I'll usually go as many times as my opponent wants, so with someone as nice and cordial as Christina, I certainly won't be any different. The forced board runs out with the 5 of clubs, so we're going to need some help. On the count of 3, we're going to channel some serious run good. Looking for a diamond on this river, and I need your help to get there. It didn't work last time, but I'm feeling the magic today. On the count of 3, I want each and every one of you to hit that like button to channel some serious run good. 3, 2, 1. It's a black card, but it's the Queen of Clubs giving us the ace high straight. So we get there, but not in the way that we had expected. So now we go from expecting to chop to hoping to scoop this $15,000 pot, and my best friend, who also happens to pitch cards, delivers us the 8 of diamonds on the second turn. That will secure the victory for us and an $8,000 profit being pushed in our direction with some early momentum behind us and some strong wins in our sale. I hate to do it to someone as nice as Christina, but you know what they say. No gamble, no future.
She got what she wanted, and she still lost both.
Is that what the FR stands for? PokerPro.free?
It's free, yeah.
Now rolling into the halfway point of the session, playing about 40% of our hands with a $9,500 profit to show for it, looking to keep the positive momentum rolling in the second half of the show. We will have the biggest pot of the day against the aforementioned French professional, Yo Viral. So a really crazy start to the first half of this episode, highlighted by that massive 60-40 against Christina that we were able to scoop the entirety of the pot. Expecting to chop most of the time, but the poker gods were in our favor today. Hoping to get some cards above a 6 in the second half of the episode, but something tells me that we're going to be mudslinging most of this game. So if you haven't already, please make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Let me know about a way I played a specific hand today, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about that last one, whether I should be calling there, folding there, or just ripping it all in as we did. I would love to hear a little bit of feedback from you guys, and as always, thank you, and I'll see you all next time.